Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. And I'm happy to report the market's a little calmer this week. Modern's still a little crazy, however, it's a lot more stable than it has been. Legacy's actually pretty soft this week. Standard's stable, but that's to be expected because we're in the middle of Dominaria previews right now. A lot of players are going to wait and see what's going to happen in that set as we see the rest of the previews this week. Many others will wait for the first couple weeks of competitive Standard. Some others will wait until the Pro Tour happens before they purchase any singles. So nothing unusual there. Also, too, at the time of recording, the Challenger decks came out yesterday. They're definitely impacting the market, too. Now, on the flip side, the Pauper market is pretty hot. We'll look at that towards the end of the video. And also, I'll give you my thoughts on what's going on with Masterpieces. Quickly, though, before we get started, just a really fast reminder. If you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here at the channel. One of which is our Patreon page. You're also going to find links to products on Amazon. If you make any purchases on Amazon, once you go through that first link, no matter what it is, we'll get a small percentage for the channel. And finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. Hopefully save some cash while you help out the channel. So again, thank you not only to the folks that look at those links, but to everyone who watches the videos. You all make the channel what it is. Thank you, and without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's begin with the top 5 standard cards that have lost value this week. So like I said in the intro, a lot of the high-priced cards are going to be really soft right now because people don't want to invest in a deck right before a new set drops. Not necessarily that the cards will be bad or anything like that, especially the really good ones will probably still be really good. However, a new deck might catch their eye and they may want to gravitate towards something brand new, so they're just not ready to drop that kind of money when the market is uncertain. So that's what you're seeing here for the most part. And again, like I said at the open, the Challenger deck's also having an impact, and we'll see that as we begin with number 5, Rekindling Phoenix. Down 51 cents to 29.05. Perfect example. A little bit more of an expensive card, but a very solid card in a lot of builds in this past Standard, and I don't think that's going to change in the new Standard. One thing to remember, though, with this card, the Challenger decks just came out, and this is a fantastic upgrade for a couple of them. The Mono Red Aggro especially, but also the Vehicles deck. So players that just pick these up, if they're looking for some low-hanging fruit to upgrade them and they have some money to burn, this card is kind of a no-brainer, and as a matter of fact, this has gone up a little bit over the last 24 hours. I kind of expect this to spike over the next week or two. Keep a close eye on it. Number 4, the Scarab God. Down $1.03 to $30.31. Again, another expensive card that is a little soft right now. Now, the Scarab God has been fantastic ever since it came out in Hour of Devastation. That's not going to change when Dominaria drops. However, this card is also inching a little closer to rotation. So what does that mean ultimately for the card? Well, it hasn't put up any really good showings in Modern or Legacy necessarily, so this card is in for some rough times over the next few months. Now, rotation doesn't occur till the fall, but don't think that the fall set's going to drop and this card's going to go from $30 to $10 overnight. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is once the core set comes out this summer, people are going to decide what their deck is going to be for that next period, and if it doesn't include the Scarab God, they're going to start selling. As a matter of fact, sellers are going to get nervous even before the core set drops, and they're going to start thinking about liquidating these and lowering their prices a little bit too. So keep that in mind. They don't want to get stuck with this inventory, these $30 cards, and they end up not being able to sell them down the road. They're going to take a cut early, maybe sell these for 2025 while they still can. So stay tuned because that is going to happen. This card could have one last hurrah, maybe like at the Pro Tour or something if it performs well. But from that point forward, it's going to be a downhill slide, even if it is gradual. So another card you want to stay close to. Number 3, Chandra, Torch of Defiance, down $1.04 to $23.57. This card is also being impacted by Challenger decks, but in a little bit of a different way. This is included in the Mono Red deck, so the market's been bracing for this for a while now. This value has been going down over a number of weeks. However, now that the deck is out and players are going to start picking it up, this could be an upgrade card. Some players may want more copies, and if that's the case, then you might see this quickly stabilize and go up a little bit over the next couple weeks. Again, much like the other cards we're talking about today, it's also still going to see play in Standard after Dominaria drops, I have no doubt. And unlike the Scarab God, even though this is closing in on rotation, This has seen at least some light play in Modern and Legacy, so it isn't as bad, but not enough play, honestly, to warrant the current price tag. Number 2, Carnage Tyrant, down $1.40 to $22.49. So this one's kind of interesting. Yes, it's a big ticket card going down a little bit this week, but unlike some of the other high price cards, this one has been going up recently as opposed to going down. Why is that? Well, a couple of reasons. First off, towards the end of this standard meta, the Monsters decks had some success, which pushed this card a little bit, so it got a little bit hot recently. Secondly, and more importantly, Dominaria previews have been making it look like green could get a lot stronger. So the folks who have been following those previews, especially over the last few weeks, have been looking to pick up this card. And those early engagers, I think, already got it, and now we're having just a soft week. A couple of things make this better once Dominaria drops. Some other good green creatures around it, but also, most importantly, Llanowar Elves. And Llanowar Elves certainly makes this card better. As soon as they're released into the wild, I think this card gets incredibly hot again, especially among more casual players, or players who are just kind of wanting to wait and see what happens. I have no doubt that once competitive play begins with the new cards, that you're going to see a stompy deck of some kind, whether it's mono green or Gruul. It's going to happen. I have no doubt, and this card is going to get very hot when it does, so keep an eye on this one too. Number 1, Hezret the Fervent, down $1.91 to $15. This card very similar to Chandra right now. It's been going down, partially due to the fact that it is in the Mono Red Challenger deck, and the market has been bracing for that. Again, like Chandra, I expect people to start picking up the deck this week and then thinking of upgrades. They might be going to this card, so this could quickly stabilize, start going up a little bit. Another card that will continue to see play post-Dominaria, I have no doubt, honestly. And another card, though, that is creeping towards rotation. Like Chandra, this card has had some success in Modern. Pyromancer decks were running this, although you're not seeing this as much in Mardu Pyromancer as you were. However, recently Affinity decks are running like one of these out of the sideboard. I'm not sure if that's going to stick, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So at least there's some capital there for Modern, but ultimately this is another one that might have a turbulent few months ahead. Alright, so let's move on to the 5 standard cards that have gained value this week. Now, you're going to notice here the gains are very, very conservative, so don't read too much into which cards they are, honestly, because they are very small increases. Number 5, Gideon of the Trials, of 44 cents to 10.44. I do think this is being driven, especially over the last 24 to 48 hours from some of the Dominaria previews. We saw a lot of strong control cards over the last few days, especially. I think a lot of people are thinking maybe Teferi, as well as some of the new counterspells and such, could make control a little better. I think that actually is a safe bet, so this card does benefit from those previews. Also, not a bad upgrade card for the Approach Challenger deck. Number 4, Scavenger Grounds, of 47 cents to 3.49. This card is seeing Modern play now, and like Eldrazi builds, but it's been seeing tons of Standard play, actually all over the place. It is a way to deal with the Scarab God, as well as gift decks, so it's been a very popular land, and that's not going to change with the new meta. Number 3, Liliana Death's Majesty, up 50 cents to 8.50. Another card that caught on a little bit towards the end of this meta. It was actually always good, but it just started seeing a little more play out of some of the mid-rangey and energy decks recently. So that's part of the reason it's been going up. But again, a lot of people are also speculating that maybe Mono Black could be a thing based on some of the previews we've been seeing over the last few days. So this card takes a small bump up. Number 2, Dire Fleet Daredevil, at 51 cents to $7. I've been preaching how great this card is now for weeks, so if you don't have your copies yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. This card's awesome. Here's the deal. Fantastic in Standard, and it's going to continue to see lots of Standard play, I have no doubt. But I'm watching this in Modern, as this is starting to creep more and more into some of those human builds. And even if it's just a one-of some of the time in those builds, if it's that powerful to hang in the humans deck, this is a card to watch for the future for Modern purposes, maybe even Legacy. So if you don't have your copies, I would grab them. It's also a good upgrade card for the Mono Red Challenger deck as well. Number 1, Paradox Engine, up 89 cents to 12.93. This card has been really hot recently. It's finally actually starting to stabilize. Now, it's not because of Standard play, although there's always brewers out there trying to figure out what to do with this in Standard. But it's really been hot because of Commander. Fantastic spiky Commander card right here. Alright, let's move on to the world of Modern. And like I said in the intro, Modern is starting to finally stabilize. It's still a little crazy, but it's a lot better than it was. Let's look at the top 5 cards that lost value. Most of these are cards that recently spiked and are just cracking back a little bit. Number 5, Imperial Recruiter from Masters 25, down $1.78 to $47.28. And if you look at the art there on Imperial Recruiter, he's kind of looking at you saying, I don't even know where I see play anymore. And he's kind of right. I don't know where he sees play anymore either. This used to be a good legacy card in Painter's Grindstone, but that deck kind of got pushed out of the meta. This is a card that combos well with Aloran, but Aloran decks really aren't running red anymore, at least not currently. And because it just got reprinted in Masters 25, there's a lot of copies out there. The appeal of the original card, for the most part, was scarcity. So now that this is out there in larger quantities, I think it continues to go down quite sharply. Wait a little bit, but maybe this could be an affordable commander or casual pickup. Number 4 is Scalding Tarn from Zendikar, down $2.13 to $76.52. This card has been wildly popular recently, and of course, it's a big part of so many important mana bases for Modern, Legacy, as well as Vintage. So it was due for a little bit of a snapback, considering how fast it was going up in value. So this isn't surprising, but I do think this quickly stabilizes. Number 3, Trinisphere from Darksteel, down $2.46 to $36.42. This card saw some increases. There was some speculation that maybe this would be a good sideboard card against Bloodbraid Elf back when it was being unbanned. That didn't really work out. However, in the Crossfire, the land destruction deck kind of picked up on this card, and it's seeing more play there. However, not enough play to warrant the current price point, so this does go down some more. Don't expect it to bottom out, though, because of its play in Vintage and Legacy. Number 2, good old Jace the Mind Sculptor. 2 versions to talk about today. Eternal Masters down $2.25 to $117.99, with World Weight going down $4.40 to $132.99. So the hype continues to subside. So much excitement when this card was being unbanned. A lot of people scrambled to get their copies. So you're seeing 2 things here. One, the people that scrambled, they now have their copies. So the price is starting to go down a little bit. Secondly, reality setting in. Like, where do you actually play this card? How many copies? It's a great card. It's good in control decks, but is it necessarily defining the format or warping the format? No, not really. So it continues to go down, I think, and I believe these cards will settle in maybe around the 110 mark before all is said and done, but it will be a gradual decline. Number 1, Noble Hierarch from Modern Masters 2015 this time, down $4.80 to $80, another card that's been incredibly hot recently, key part of a lot of important decks. The Humans deck, arguably the one pushing it the most right now, but also part of Counter's Company, which is popular. So yeah, this card was due for a snapback due to all of the increases it has been seeing, but again, I would expect this to stabilize relatively quickly. Alright, let's move on to the top 5 modern cards that have gained value this week. Number 5, Horizon Canopy from Future Sight, up $3.56 to $65.85. A card that's again part of so many important mana bases, Vintage, Legacy, Modern. Most importantly, maybe some of those big Modern decks, the Humans deck, the Hexproof deck, as well as Counter's Company, all running this. And it is getting hot again quickly. Number 4, Greater Good from 9th edition, up $4.26 to $19.72. Not really because of modern play here, but this is a popular commander card. The reason this version has been popular recently as well is because of the real-world reference in the flavor text, the Mary Shelley Frankenstein quote. So, one word of warning though, these are drying up on TCG Player, that's why you're seeing this kind of sharp increase, and it's actually been increasing for a few weeks now. It just hasn't hit our radar because the format, the modern cards have been so crazy this got pushed out of the list. But it has been hot. Although, if you're looking to buy this card, I would check eBay. I think you can find cheaper prices there, quite honestly. Now, the other thing I want to mention was the Judge promo version of the card also spiked aggressively this week. It also has the same flavor text, by the way. However, that one is spiking due to the fact that there's barely any copies out there in the marketplace, and somebody listed copies at a extremely high price. So it is a little bit of market manipulation. It's kind of a false spike and false inflation, so be careful. Number 3, Mox Opal from Scars of Mirrodin, up $5.56 to $94.99. This card just keeps going crazy. It really ignited when it was revealed that it was not going to be in Masters 25, and the card is in so many important modern decks. Lantern Control, which won the Pro Tour, Affinity, which is incredibly popular, Ironworks Combo, which is gaining steam, not to mention others, very popular in Vintage as well. This card is just going to keep going up. It might snap back a little bit, but ultimately, until this gets reprinted, the card will keep increasing. Number 2, Cavern of Souls from Avacyn Restored this time, up $6.19 to $91.09. Another card that's just seeing tons of play in important decks right now, and it's just going to keep going up. We did get a reprint in Modern Masters 2017 as a Mythic, though. Unfortunately, we really need another reprint of this card to control the inflation because it's just going up so quickly. You might see some snapback in coming weeks, but eventually it will just recover and keep going up. It's just too important of a card. You'll find this in Eldrazi decks, but maybe most importantly right now, the Humans deck's very popular. Even some decks in Legacy will run this, like Elves, for example. This card is not going anywhere. Number 1, Engineered Explosives has a really nice week. Modern Masters up 416 to 5967 with 5th Dawn going up 1937 to 7770. This card was soft for a while as people were playing less and less of it, but recently as the meta shifted, I started seeing it show up in sideboards more again, and a lot of times it's just a one-of, but it is showing up in a lot of important decks. Alright, so let's move on to the top 5 Legacy cards that lost value this week. Now you're going to see the Legacy world is very calm this week, and you're going to see a lot of dual lands on here. That's a good indication that things are relatively stable, so that's good news. So let's see what we have. Number 5, it's Taiga from Unlimited. Down 29.63 to 218.93, our first dual land. Number 4, Tundra, down 31.87 to 275, again from Unlimited. Number 3, Eureka, down $51 to 301.25. This card's been cold recently. It went down last week as well. I would expect it to recover relatively fast, though. Number 2, Mishra's Factory, the winter variant from Antiquities, down 101.57 to 324.42. This card has recently been the target of a buyout. It was spiking aggressively last week. Looks like the copies are starting to be reintroduced into the market now. Number 1, Force Field from Unlimited, down 341.64 to 254.99. Another buyout target. This was a huge card last week and went up hundreds of dollars. Coming down this week. Again, it looks like a buyout, and these cards are starting to come back into the market. Alright, let's move on to the top 5 Legacy cards that have gained value this week. Number 5, Lion's Eye Diamond, up 92.46 to 249.99. This is actually a pretty big one. This does appear to be a buyout. The cheaper copies of the card on the big marketplaces have all disappeared, leaving the higher priced cards. That creates inflation, or at least artificial inflation. The person buying them up will sell them back at a slightly lower price than the higher prices that are out there, and that's what we call a buyout. Number 4, Underground Sea from Unlimited, up $111.19 to $692.97. Number 3, City of Brass from Arabian Nights, up $115.30 to $332.50. Now, this is not on the reserve list. You can find cheaper copies. It's been reprinted. But this original version, which has been going up and down every week, you may have noticed, it is still popular, though, with 93-94 players as well as collectors. Number 2, Plateau from Unlimited, up $168.93 to $386.99. And finally, number 1, The Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale, up $309.30 to $1,998.50. Good old Tabernacle. I don't think it's going to stay around the 2,000 point. I do think it does go back down a little bit, but this is a card that has been slowly gaining value. Alright, let's look at a few other notable cards this week. We're going to start off with Pauper. I mentioned at the top of the show, Pauper's been pretty hot, and you're going to see that in some of the prices. Snow-Covered Island, up 90 cents to $3.86. Very popular card in Pauper. It's run in a lot of decks that run Scred. This is the Ice Age version. Swirling Sandstorm, up $1.46 to $1.79. You're seeing this a lot of times out of the sideboard of Is It Delver decks, among some others. Circular Logic from Torment, up $2.01 to $6.32. This one's one of those weird ones that technically has never been printed as common in paper. However, most tournament organizers go by the Magic Online rules for Pauper, which means this card is legal because it was printed as a common there. So always check ahead of time with your tournament organizer or your LGS, but this card is generally accepted as a card that's played in Pauper, and you'll find this in the Inside Out decks, which are very popular right now. Alright, another Inside Out combo piece, and that's Shadow Rift, up $3.17 this week to $4.50. Very significant increase. The next card is a Pauper card, but it's actually not seeing as much Pauper play anymore. This is more spiking thanks to Modern, and that's Faithless Looting. Last week we saw the Commander 2015 version increasing. Well, now a few other copies are following in its footsteps. Dual Deck Sorin vs. Tibalt going up 72 cents to $1.97. Commander 2014 going up 89 cents to $2.20. This is a common that's been reprinted many times over the years, but when you see these versions that are a little scarcer starting to go up, this could be an indicator of some increases to come with this card. And it would make sense because it's seeing a lot of modern play in some big decks. Hollow One, Mardu Pyromancer, as well as Dredge even, to name a few. Sylvan Safekeeper, up $1.86 to $4.50. Now, that's not a huge increase, but percentage-wise, it is kind of significant. This card is seeing increased play in Legacy, so I wanted to point it out to you. This is the Judgment version we're looking at here. This card is part of the Dark Depths deck that came in second a couple weeks ago at the Star City Games Legacy Classic in Cincinnati, which drew some attention to the card. City of Traders, another Legacy card that's kind of hot right now, $22.40 to $195. This shows up in a number of different builds. I actually think this might be undervalued considering it is a reserve list card. Hazan Tamar, up $70.40 to $180.38. Pretty significant increase. Probably a buyout, but I always like to show you when these original legends go up. The reserve list ones especially have been hot, but even the non-reserve list. Now, this one is on the reserve list. Strip Mine. Now, don't get it twisted before I go into this card. This is the small tower variant. I've shown this card before, and that has confused some people. So, this is the small tower variant from Antiquities. So don't get too excited. You might not be strip mine rich. Just check your strip mines closely. This one has gone up $58.77 this week to $252.69. This one's been kind of scarce on the marketplace, so it has had some recent increases. Finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple masterpieces because I have been getting a lot of questions around them, and I have discussed this type of thing on the channel before. I wanted to talk about artificial inflation a little bit, because that's what's happening, unfortunately, with some of these cards, and I have alluded to it already in this video. We're talking about Greater Good and the Judge promo, for example. But here's what happens. If you follow maybe MTG Goldfish, or MTG Stocks, perhaps, or Price, some other sites out there, they are looking and pulling prices from what sellers are selling cards for. So unfortunately, when there's a card that's maybe difficult to find or scarce, and that could be a masterpiece, it could be an old foil, it could just be an old card. That's why I don't talk a lot about, say, Moxes or Lotuses on here, because prices tend to be very unstable and very inaccurate. The problem is there's just not enough data points out there in the online marketplace. A couple of reasons for that. First off, the cards are scarce. There's not as many copies out there for sale. Secondly, some of the more expensive cards people don't like to buy online. They rather see them in person because of counterfeiting and such. So because of that, at any given time, sometimes cards just don't have a lot of price points to compare to each other out there. So, for example, if somebody posts a card at a very high price point and MTG Goldfish picks that up, it's going to look like the card spiked, even though no one's buying the card at that high price point, but they're creating inflation. Sometimes they just do it because they really don't know what the card's worth and they just throw a price out there and then they gradually lower it over time. They're not trying to be dishonest. Other times what they do is they take a card, and let's say there's one listing for the card and it's $30. Say the card's worth $30. And I have 2 copies of the card. I could go and I could post 1 copy and ask $900 for it. Now that's going to create an artificial spike. People are going to see that spike and notice it, but not know necessarily why it happened. My second copy of the card, I might sell it for $100. I made a lot more than $30, right? But someone's going to see, wow, this card's worth $900 and this sucker's selling it for $100. I'm going to pick this up. And unfortunately, you just got scammed out about $70. That actually does happen. Now, again, when you see this, it's not always malicious. Like I said, a lot of times it's just people posting high prices for whatever reason. They don't realize they're high or they're trying to find the right price point. But there are people that will take advantage of that. And masterpieces are definitely a card that you see this happen with. Not to mention, like I said, other promos, other rare foils, and some old Magic cards. So, Defense Grid, up $62.70 this week to $97.75. I'll let you guess before I show you the result. Is that really what it's worth? Well, how do you find out what it's really worth? Well, go to eBay. Look at sold prices. And I'm going to tell you, even though right now MTG Goldfish and those sites are telling you this is about a $100 card, you know what it's selling for on eBay? About $30. All week long, these things are going for $30. So that is artificial inflation. Again, might not be malicious, just could be how they priced them. But don't be fooled by it. Check out eBay sold listings. Whenever you're going to buy something expensive, check out eBay sold listings. See what the true market value is. It's the best way to do it. See what people are actually paying. Also, another thing that can throw off some of the data points is if someone sells like a graded card, for example, because that might sell higher than normal. And if it's listed in a particular way where the system can't tell the difference, sometimes you get those anomalies in there. Let's look at another one. Scalding Tarn, Expedition, great card. We talked about it earlier. Up $95.78 this week to $349.99. So, real or fake? Well, let's find out. What are they going for on eBay? $250. $250 all day long. So if you spent $350 on the card, yeah, you're probably out about $100. That wouldn't be a good thing, right? So I don't think anyone's paying $350 for the card. But again, maybe someone will post one now for $300. That $300 looks like a deal because they see the $350, and really you just overpaid by $50. Not a good thing, right? So I hope that helps a little bit. Now, not to say all of these are always artificial inflation. I mean, look at a card like Mox Opal, for example. It's been going up, the Masterpiece, because the actual Mox Opal has been going up quite a bit. Now, again, be careful. Don't overspend for a Mox Opal Masterpiece because data points are lighter. And again, the card may still be valued higher than it's worth, but it doesn't mean it's not truly going up in value, in other words. So keep that in mind. So I hope that helps a little bit. And that concludes the Market Watch for this week. We'll be back next week with another Market Watch, and of course, over the course of this week, we'll be following the Dominaria previews. Until next time, though, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.